BPM, Bullets Per Minute, is a hardcore rhythm shooter roguelike in first person. It requires your full focus as you fight an onslaught of projectile spamming demons, all to the sound and speed of the blaring beat. That's all the game is. There's no story, no dialogue, only a timely trek through a rendition of hell as one of many selectable Norse mythological warriors. And that's probably all it needs to be to give you your time and money's worth. As bare bones as it is, it's smart enough to incorporate clever RNG in a methodical way that ensures you never get the same playing experience twice. It's an interesting concept for a game to have the gameplay and attack patterns synced to the soundtrack, a mechanic that I at first thought was merely a gimmick but later realized was an important clue to understanding how to better micromanage the dungeons and their enemies. I instead find it to be a neat detail that sets it apart from a genre with many great titles that have done things similar in an intense shoot-'em-up fashion. BPM brings with it a difficulty level that any hardcore gamer would approve of. It's one of the hardest games I've ever played, at least when doing the challenges that require you to complete the game without getting hit a single time. I somehow managed to do that and became the second person to platinum the game on PlayStation Network. That's a platinum that should be seen as a rare and respectable one. This game tests your patience and reaction times as well as your device's latency and will have your heart pounding as loud as the music. I had a lot of rage-inducing moments where my voice's decibel level was also getting up there too, mostly because of my own mental lapses, but also due to some nonsense deaths, like getting to the end of the game only to die in one hit to the same boss I already killed in said sequence. Bullets Per Minute has a brutal ask of beating the entire game without dying once, without any checkpoints across the 8 distinct stages. There are other games out there with self-imposing feats such as this, but usually only on the higher difficulties. But Bullets Per Minute asks a lot of you even on easy mode, which feels like hard mode to beginners, not to mention the nearly impossible task of beating Hellish with Sangreor. The difficulty is harsh, especially considering how much RNG directly determines your outcome in many cases, such as every dungeon generating different rooms with different enemies and variations of bosses, and the different item pickups in each run. Like a game of chess, you can only memorize so much before you have to think on your own. What I will say in support of the RNG is how creative the design is for the combinations of weapons, upgrades, and modifications available to you in each run, and depending on how far you make it through the game, the algorithm usually provides you with enough relevant equipment to match your chosen build as more areas are generated and the difficulty spikes. I don't have a lot more to say about the game's themes. It is painfully frustrating when you die, and you get quite a rush when you're victorious. But in either case, I found myself pushing for the win and appreciating the challenge the game has to offer. For the rest of the video, I want to provide some tips that I observed while playing that should be helpful for new players. Each of the characters you play as have different starting weapons, health, and abilities. And as you unlock more, new challenges and ways of experiencing the game come with them. Starting out with Gold is probably the best as she has a good balance of starting health and weapon choice. The next characters you will play as all have stronger abilities but have some drawback in health. Njord has infinite ammo but can only shoot from his fingertips. One character has a timer that drains his health but regains it on damaging enemies, making you play as fast as possible. Another character only has coins for health, of which you lose half of upon getting hit, and some have no health at all. Rune has a completely random starting kit but always gets some of the OP weapons. Older dies in one hit but has unlimited jumping ability and can fly, so use the verticality of the maps to your advantage to hide from enemies and search for hidden upgrades. There's also an armor piece called Strike to the Beat that is extremely helpful as it kills off enemies for you every time the beat goes off. This is useful for playing with those low health characters or for clearing rooms with a large number of enemies. You also want to use weapons with greater range and accuracy to better manage the enemies that spam projectiles from afar. Try to match the beat when you shoot so you can be more accurate and avoid panicking and missing. And remember that the enemies also only attack on the beat, but of course, you can shoot as much as you want, whenever, with speed to counter that. There are also many ways to combine armor pieces, but try to prioritize anything that gives you a damage boost as you'll need it against the bosses in the late stages. Explosives help out a lot, turning mildly powerful weapons into a great attacking resource, and infinite ammo is the most fun, especially with the minigun. Try aiming for the head to deal more damage and use splash damage behind the enemies with shields to kill them quickly. Each of the 8 different floors also has modifiers, sometimes making it easier, sometimes more absurd. When the RNG goes your way, you're confident you can manage the run through the 40-minute campaign, which is brisk but brutal. You always have to tough it out through Asgard, Vanaheim, Svartalfheim, and Helheim. If you don't like a modifier on the early stages, simply restart the game to get a new one. There are shops that resupply you with healing items, guns, and ability upgrades that are different each time you enter a dungeon. Spending coins there eventually upgrades the shops, which will then offer free items and more inventory. There's a bank you can even store coins in for future playthroughs that also gives you free coins on each visit just for keeping 100 in the depository. You can gamble for items when opening chests or using coins, scarce resources you find from slaying demons. Make sure you save these for visits to the library to find ultimates, which you can keep for future runs on that specific character, or when you finally see a good gun or armor piece at the shops. There's also a rare chance to teleport to the end of the game or back to previous areas, so always investigate the rooms if you need more upgrades before a boss fight, and don't give up if RNG seems like it isn't in your favor. There's a lot of variety for playing bullets per minute. There are a lot more features on display that you have to figure out for yourself when playing and develop a strategy that works for you. For being a legitimately tough game to beat in Platinum, and for the novel use of sound sync and replay value through RNG, bullets per minute is an 8 out of 10. High form, top tier, distinguished. Thank you to All Interactive for providing a free copy of Bullets per Minute to play. I enjoyed your game.